YouTube, what is YouTube? Down Home News TV. And I am DeAndre. Or Dre. Or D. Whatever you want to call me. As the old saying says back in the day, call me what you want, just don't call me broke. I'm joking. But, I don't know if any of y'all listened to the Breakfast Club this morning. They had Dr. Umar Johnson on there. And I'm gonna do another video on some other snippets of the interview, but right now we're gonna get down to the situation with the immigrant crisis. DJ MV and Charlemagne God asked Dr. Umar Johnson what is his thoughts on the immigration crisis, and we're gonna start. It's towards the end of the interview, but let's check it out.
Everybody wants to label whenever you talk about what the black activists in Chicago are going through, or whenever you talk about what black people here in New York are complaining about, they'll say that's MAGA messaging. How's it?
And before I continue, I was notified that I should quit spitting during my videos, so I'm gonna try to listen to my advisor's input and try. Well, that's the first time I'm gonna spit. No homo. It's dip, people. But working on quitting, and they advised me to put on a shirt. But I'm at my house. It's the end of the day. Had a long day at work, and I'm relaxing. And we'll just see how it goes. Continuing.
MAGA messaging.
It's not MAGA messaging. Listen, the bottom line is when Joe Biden got elected, he said he wanted to fast track 4 million undocumented residents to full citizenship. Black people completely ignored it. I spoke on it. I said, do you know why he want to fast track 4 million? Because he know he's not going to do nothing for us. We ain't going to be motivated to vote for him, though.
So he's using those immigrants for votes.
November. So what he's going to do is have these migrants already set up with citizenship so they can replace the black vote that he loses. The migrants are being put in our communities on purpose, New York and Chicago on purpose, because they are what? The two blackest cities in America. They're the two largest cities in America. They're the two most politically conscious black communities in America. So if we can wash out the black with the brown in New York, if we can wash out the black with the brown in Chicago, Philly don't stand a chance. Atlanta don't stand a chance. LA, Houston, Dallas, Detroit, Chicago don't stand a chance. The migrants are here for 3 reasons. Replace us at the polls, replace us at the low-end industry jobs, right? See, when Donald Trump said during the debate that Joe Biden is taking black jobs and giving them to migrants, he was correct. Although he didn't say it because he cared about us, but he's right. When people say, what do you mean by black jobs? Get out your bougie feelings and deal with the reality. 1/3 of black men have a felony. So there's a lot of jobs they will never qualify for. They are mostly what? Essential workers, warehouse, trucking, security. And a lot of those jobs are going to who? The migrants. So that's what he meant by black jobs. We got to stop.
Hate to cut it off, but I hear a lot. Well, Charleston White, for an example, speaking on Donald Trump and how he was, I don't want to say the word coddled, but growing up, a lot of African Americans and hip hop celebrities, they kind of swayed towards Trump and used him as, I don't want to say idol, but they always sang his praises, like Nelly, Country Grammar. And you see Mike Tyson back in the day, he was using the Trump hotels as some of his boxing arenas. Even Oprah Winfrey had him on her show back in the 80s, 90s. And she was asking about his political aspirations and her possibly being the VP for Donald Trump back then, until she figured out, I guess, I'm assuming, this is all my opinion, but if he kept the mindset back then that he had up until now, because he ran as a Republican, I guess that kind of shooed her away. But I don't know what it is. Like, as soon as he ran for office, people started demoralizing him, basically calling him a joke, things of that nature. But once he got into office, he was the next Hitler, all this, all that. And I know it's probably going to be controversial, but please bear with me, people. I really don't care at the end of the day, because a president isn't going to affect my way of living. I'm going to continue to bust my behind to get to where I want to be in life. But similar situation with Alex Jones. When I would bring up his name in conversations, people would say, "Oh, don't you think he's a fearmonger? All this, all that." Yeah, in some situations, but even before his predictions and things, a lot of people would say, like Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, came to fruition. Yeah, he got some things wrong. Could have been more kind of iffy on some subjects, but overall, I would say a lot of the things you're seeing now between the so-called left and right, a lot of the influence and a lot of the things that Alex Jones talks about is coming from things that he said in the past. I'm not sure if it's right. I mean, a lot of the things he talks about is kind of, when you look at things today, I mean, if you actually been listening to him for over a decade, you'd be like, maybe there's some validity to this. But back to Trump, like I was saying with Oprah Winfrey, she had him on the show. She was all buddy-buddy with him. And she seemed like she would like to be his VP. I mean, I think he brought it up in the conversation. But as soon as he turned into a Republican, that's when a lot of the black celebrities like turn their backs on him. And you could go research or look up the interviews or look at videos from the past how Trump was good friends with Al Sharpton. I believe he even donated a building to help his NAACP committees gather. He donated a building to the NAACP back in the 90s, late 80s possibly. And I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to be incorrect when I say this, but I want to say it was for free or at a feasible lending rates to where that they was able to afford to gain income, have some profit, as well as pay off their loan, if that's the case. But I know it's something similar to that, but let's continue on.
Stop being so sensitive and look at the reality of it. I was reading a report the other day. They said the Latinos taking over the construction jobs. They taking them over. And the low industry work, like your gardening, your landscaping, completely taking it over. They're not the enemy. The problem is black people don't get as much opportunity. So then people say, well, white people don't really like brown people like that. That's true. But you know what the difference is? They don't have the burden of accountability with them that they have with us. We built the country. So every time they look at us, deal with us, the bottom line is y'all brought them here and they built y'all into what y'all are. They don't have to say that to the Venezuelans. They don't have.
What I'm about to say dates back to the Ryan Garcia situation. I did a video on him and his racist rant towards African Americans. And it seems like, I don't say all, but a lot of the black Americans I come in contact with, they make it seem like we gotta stand with the Hispanic community when it comes to situations that they go through here in America. But if the foot was on the other shoe and blacks were in Mexico, El Salvador, situations like that, I'm pretty sure we would get worse treatment than the lower class over there. But yet, in America, for some reason, I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm not saying it's right, how blacks just, I mean, they say blacks are the most loving community or whatever, but that's when I was growing up. I grew up, I ain't gonna say my age, but it seemed that way, that blacks were more forgiving, more open to accepting people. But at a certain extent, you can't just accept everybody and hold them to the same regard, because if you look at the situation, put yourself in their situation, if you were in their territory, their country, we probably wouldn't get the same respect or same support that a lot of African Americans give the immigrants that are coming over here. But that's just my opinion. Let's continue on.
Have to say that to the Colombians. They don't have to say that to the Mexicans. So although they don't like brown, they will much rather deal with them than the black, because with the black, there is a white man's burden that you owe them restitution for 246 years of unpaid labor. Now let's look at what Eric Adams is doing over there in New York. A family of four is getting $1,400 a month. $1,400 a month. Do you know that that's more than what some of the veterans are getting with a child? They're getting more.
And do you think if you was in Venezuela or Mexico, Mexicans would say, hey, all these blacks immigrating over here to Mexico or Venezuela, we need to give them some type of government assistance that are coming out of our tax dollars? I don't think they would.
Money than veterans who served in the military. Not only that, they're getting free food stamps, free child care, and permanent housing. Although New York City has a black homelessness rate no less than 35%. So you got black people who pay taxes living on the street, and you got migrants who ain't paid a single tax in their life eating and living better than the black people who built the country. If I was talking to Eric Adams and Brandon Johnson of Chicago, I would ask them something. What is the Democratic Party giving you guys that you're willing to sacrifice your political future to push this migrant agenda? Because I don't see how they get reelected by black folks. I don't see.
There's something bigger to the story. I know he's saying that, what is the Democratic Party giving Mayor Adams and Brandon Johnson to fall on his political sword, but did I say sword? Sword. I think at the surface that's what it may look like, but there's something bigger coming. There has to be.
See how. And if your city goes to the migrants, you can best believe the migrants ain't electing no black person to mayorship. So you're literally dying on your sword for the Democratic Party. Do you know that New York City has spent $1.5 billion on the migrant crisis so far? It's projected that this year, 2023 was $1.5 billion to take care of migrants. $1.5 billion. 2024.
Charlemagne's rubbing his ear like, oh, the dude is, oh, he might get us canceled. We probably can't have him on anymore.
2025, they said it will cost New York City $9 billion. Chicago has spent about $350 million this year on the migrant crisis, and that's expected to quadruple. And you know what was so disrespectful about Chicago with regard to Brandon Johnson? Remember all them schools they shut down in Chicago because they said they couldn't afford to operate them? Mm-hmm. They opened them up. Not only did they open them up, they renovated them. They renovated them, turned them into apartments for migrants, so you sleep upstairs, go to school downstairs. How is it that you ain't got money for jobs for black people, which is a big reason why you got so much crime? You got all these homeless black people in Chicago, but you can take care of the migrants before you take care of black people, and that's why I'm hoping that Black Chicago organizes, just like co-founder of the Black Panther Party, Bobby Seale did at the 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Bobby Seale turned up and turned it out with the Black Panthers. I hope Chicago doesn't let President Biden and Vice President Harris come there, because you know the Democratic National Convention is in Chicago,
right.
August 19th through August the 21st. I hope Black Chicago don't let the Democrats come to your city where they have bred this migrant crisis and y'all don't do nothing about it. And I'm gonna tell you who else needs to stand up and show out. Milwaukee. Even though they don't have a migrant crisis like Chicago and New York, the Republican convention is in Milwaukee next Monday, this coming Monday. And guess what? Milwaukee, black people are the largest ethnic group. Unlike Chicago, it's white, Hispanic, black. Milwaukee is black, white, Hispanic. But guess what? Milwaukee has one of the worst black male graduation rates in America. So I'm hoping that black Wisconsin goes to that Republican National Convention and exercise their First Amendment rights to peacefully assemble and protest. Don't.
That kind of brings me to what former president said at one of his rallies. What do blacks have to lose? If you listen to this interview with Dr. Umar Johnson and see how what he believes is going on in the inner cities, let's just say inner cities, with the migrant crisis that's affecting black voters, that I know they say there's no monolithic thinking when it comes to black people, but it seems like the Democratic Party has a stronghold on black voters. This is what I believe the former president was speaking about. What do they have to lose? Like I said about, I did a video on Mayor Johnson the other day, and he was blaming Richard Nixon for the violent crime in Chicago. And like I stated, Democrats have had a stronghold in that city for over 50 years. And I believe that's what Trump was talking about. What do we have to lose? Because all these inner cities, they've been voting Democrat for so long, and nothing seems to have changed. Like I said, I believe North Dakota, the area I was living in, had a Democratic governor, but like I said, it was more rural than inner city, so I can't really gauge the difference. I can only speak on what I read in the newspapers, videos I see from inner cities, and how it's got so bad in California that the governor is actually taxing people. I'm pretty sure y'all heard about in California, they had some type of joke about how U-Haul services has went up in New York. This was maybe a year or two years ago. How U-Haul services has skyrocketed because so many people are moving out. But within the last year or so, it was real recent, where I came across an article that the governor is now taxing people for leaving the state of California. And they claim that is the party that's supposed to be upholding democracy. If I put a tax on you trying to leave my state, what does that sound like to you? It's just my opinion. I'm just thinking out loud. I'm sorry. Let's continue.
Let them come to your city after causing all these problems and let them leave without them hearing from you. They are replacing us. America, if they can do it, they're going to purge black people with brown. Why do you think the New York regents, did you see that they said they're going to stop requiring the regents examination to get your high school diploma in New York? Is it that convenient? All of a sudden we get a migrant crisis in New York, and now you don't have to pass the regents no more. You know why? Because we got to make sure the migrants take all the jobs from black folks. They're already taking over the social services. They dominated the social services. If you black and hungry and need some food, too late. The migrants got it. Same thing in Chicago. You black and hungry, need some food, need a job, the migrants got it. I'm trying to understand how Eric Adams and Brandon Johnson can hand out all these work permits when you got all these unemployed black men. Half of black men in New York unemployed. Half of black men in Chicago unemployed. But you got migrants getting jobs. You're holding job fairs for migrants. You're giving out job passes for migrants. And you know, because of the election fraud, if you got a work permit, it ain't that hard to get a voting registration permit.
Did he just say election fraud? Because I'm pretty sure that's a conspiracy formulated by the former president. Dr. Umar.
But I got a question for Eric Adams. Did y'all see he said that he was thinking about staffing the pools during the summer with migrants because they're good swimmers?
Right.
40% of black teens, 15 to 24, that age group, are unemployed in New York. Mayor Eric Adams, how you going to give the lifeguard jobs to the migrants when half your black kids ain't got no job?
He's assuming that they swam across the border, like the old saying goes. But my son, he could swim pretty good. Honestly, my son, he could swim real well, better than me. If I ever end up drowning, hopefully he'll be around to come save me. But we're gonna end this video here. I did a little too much talking on this interview, but it was suggested, and I'm feeling pretty good. Had a good day overall. So I figured I'd put a little more of my input into the video. But I'm going to do another snippet of this interview with Dr. Umar Johnson, because he actually said some things I agree with, things I disagree with. But we'll get to that in the future. Down Home News TV.